Welcome, my friends, to this live showdown between the Dwarves and the Dark Elves. So it's not going to be the true grudge match where it's like, the Dwarves versus the High Elves, the War of Vengeance, but it's close enough, right? It's Dwarves versus Elves. It's always going to be a good time. So as far as the build goes, we're going to be doing something very, very different. We're going to have an elite front line, so we're going to be using 3 groups of the Hammers, one of which is going to be the Peak Gate Guard. And of course, these guys can do some work. 54 melee attack, 47 melee defense, which is very high for a great weapon unit, plus pretty good weapon strength at 55. But we're going to be juicing these guys up. We do have the High King Thorgrim. He's going to be reading from his Book of Grudges, which is going to be giving 9 melee attack to nearby troops. So if we put him between these 2 hammers right here, he's going to be juicing their melee attack up into the 60s. Plus he does also have the Oath of Vengeance, so you drop this on whoever they're fighting, and they suddenly become very squishy. On top of that, we do have a Runesmith. He's pretty much going to be doing the same thing on the other side. He has the Rune of Negation, plus the Rune of Wrath and Ruin, and last but not least, he does have the Hammer of Carrick Drown. So this bad boy is going to be lowering weapon damage, melee attack, all kinds of good stuff. Aside from that, oh man, excuse me guys. All right, time to get focused. We got 3 groups of Thunderers here. These guys going to be dropping some sweet thunder on the chariots and other troops like that, and that is pretty much it. So it looks like over here, we do have a couple bolt throwers. The bolt throwers are going to be laying some pressure onto our forces, and in the meantime, he is going to be advancing with the Blades of the Blood Queen and company, so things are about to get pretty wild. Now, as far as my formation goes, I do initially start them in one group sometimes if I'm just feeling a little bit lazy, and oh no, they're going to be shooting at High King Thorgrim, so we got to drop some moves, although he is in the spray fire mode, so fighting in the water, it will have a penalty for like both of our forces, but I think if we just kind of perch ourselves like on the edge of the water here, and then we use our thunders to kind of scoot and shoot a little bit. But Blades of the Blood Queen have to be focused ASAP. Thorgrim's going to be getting in there. We do have a couple miners on the flanks to kind of defend some of the pressure coming in, so we're going to pull these guys since it doesn't look like he has anything coming from that particular side. And now it's time to kind of scoot up our guns. Now those bolt throwers aren't going to do a ton of damage. I think he brought them just in case I went with like, let's say, what are those things called? The freaking, like cannons. I was like, I could not remember what they're called, cannons. So yeah, we're going to start shooting at Blades of the Blood Queen here. We're also going to drop a fat Rune of Wrath and Ruin on those guys to try and slow the advance a little bit. These hammers can kind of fan out, although, what's on the flanks here? Miners, Hargoneth, Executioners, he actually has some pretty good stuff over here, so we're going to have to respect that. So we are getting some pretty good damage here. High King Thorgrim, we might actually need him over here to kind of deal with this whole mess, but in the meantime, we're just going to kind of keep holding our position. We'll keep shooting at the Blades of the Blood Queen here, and these guys are going to switch onto the chariots. Thorgrim actually has really good mass, so you can use him to block up chariots a little bit, and let's go ahead and pop in here, and we are going to pop the Standard Ground, Oath of Vengeance, all that kind of good stuff here, so let's drop that, and these Slayers need to kind of screen in there, and these guys can actually go and engage here, and engage here. Now the frontline fighting is about to be underway, so we'll make sure to engage and get the Runesmith in there supporting. We're going to drop the Hammer of Carrick Drown, and these guys to kind of soften them up a little bit, and in the meantime, I think it's time to get all of our guns and make sure we're shooting into the chariots, because those things are going to be a huge menace if we don't deal with them. Now, these Thunders are being kind of sacrificed a little bit, which is unfortunate, but we're going to follow up with the Slayers, which is going to give us a very good buffer, position these guys in between, and the frontline fighting is now underway. We'll pop Rune of Negation as well to give that fat damage resist to our whole front line there. And some of the hammers did fall, but again, we have reserves. I mean, someone had to take that initial chariot charge, which of course was going to be devastating regardless of the circumstances. So the other 2 Thunders, we're going to shoot at this other group of Coldstone Chariots that have escaped here. The Peak Gate Guard, we don't really need them over here, so I'm just going to pull them over here into this fight. And the miners here, we probably want to pull them back. Now we can get them engaged, it's going to be fine. And we have all the guns kind of fixed onto the chariots over there, which is good. High King Thorgrim is like just an absolute beast of a tank here. So we're going to pull back these Thunders. Hopefully they'll be in good position. And these Dwarves, we do have Runes of Wrath and Ruin, so we're going to pop it right here. We'll pull back these miners since they're not really necessary, and just keep shooting at these chariots if we can. Great. So these Thunders can pull back. Everyone's fighting pretty well. Peak Gate Guard have engaged against the appropriate targets. Thorgrim is taking a lot of work, but again, he's a tank. Plus, he also has a really good like kind of AoE buff. He does have the High King, so you can see here when he's below 50%, it's going to be giving some juicy stats. So Thorgrim is in like his happy place right now, which is always a good thing. So we're going to keep fighting these guys. Peak Gate Guard should crump the Blades of the Blood Queen pretty good, and we're going to reset up our guns. And what targets do we have to shoot at? We can actually just start shooting at Malekith because he's on his chariot, so he's going to be a little bit of a higher target. We'll set up the defensive perimeters right here. And the bounce power does ebb into our favor a little bit, but we don't want to get sloppy and lose Thorgrim. So do we have any reserves we can pull in here? We might have to actually slam the Slayers into combat here and just go after Malekith. And these hammers have come back here, so let's get those guys kind of surging back in. And yeah, now we're going to open up everything, but let's pull the Slayers just like this. And do we have any runes we could use? Not really. So these hammers just going to kind of keep trading here. And anytime I can get an excuse to use a hammer build, it's just always a good time. So great. So the Slayers, let's kind of keep screening out, trying to follow Malekith's movement. In the meantime, we'll put all of our guns in group 3 just so we can kind of more efficiently do that. I should have done that earlier, but again, just being a little bit lazy, so it happens. So Malekith's going to be peeling back, which is okay, because if we clean up like all of his infantry here, I mean, I'm going to be in good shape. So Malekith's going to be taking a ton of fire on their retreat. Thorgrim, we might actually want to run him into the trees a little bit. And it looks like, what does he have over here? Those are the remnants of his chariots. We do have the good old Oath of Vengeance right there, so we're going to be dropping that. And the guns, we can actually just square up right here and just Last Samurai pretty much like anything that's in our direction. These Slayers can just intercept them. You guys can intercept them. And the guns, yeah, we got to keep hammering Malekith. We can't let him have impunity here. Now, High King Thorgrim, still has pretty good leadership considering the circumstances. So let's go ahead and pop this buff right here, get these hammers kind of, starting to work their way over there towards the bolt thrower, because eventually we are going to have to close the distance on those guys. Slayers can, of course, sprint over there as well. And the guns are opening up on Malekith. So yeah, he's going to be getting Last Samurai pretty damn hard right here. We could use a Rune of Wrath and Ruin to even slow him, which I think might not be a bad idea, but it looks like he's going to get slapped with army losses here in a second. So GG. Yeah, GG, man. It was a fun one. That map's definitely pretty good for Dwarves because it has a lot of like funnels, but the artillery brought, he almost sniped Thorgrim, which is interesting. So, I guess there was a bit of dual purpose, dual utility in those bad boys. He was able to kind of snipe out my Lord a little bit, but the hammers, man, they did work. The one group did get run over pretty bad over there on the flank, but they held. They did their Lord proud. And the High King, he bended a little bit there, but he did not break, man. He took those bolts like an absolute champ. But I really do like the fact that Adam over here did bring the 2 bolt throwers, because had I gone with cannons or Reaper, or not cannons, or I actually almost brought an organ gun, he would have been able to grab the 2 Reaper bolt throwers and actually snipe me out in that respect. So that could have been a little bit of a unfortunate situation there. So yeah, I like the Reaper bolt thrower picks. The Cold One Chariots, of course, always super good against Dwarves. I probably would have, what I would have done is gotten 2 Chariots on either side and try and collapse, because overloading one flank makes it very easy for the Dwarf player to kind of decide like, okay, I'm going to commit my Slayers. I'm going to move over my right flank over here and just kind of overload this. And Thorgrim, of course, is very good at dealing with mass charges because of his mass. He was able to get in front of the Chariots, use his bulk and his girth, and just all that Bugman's brew that he drinks, just get in there and just go to town. And yeah, he was a beast. Plus, he was giving melee attack, and when he got low, he gave the High King buff to everyone on the map, which was just making my infantry and everything that much more insane. So Thorgrim's actually, he's pretty beastly, and I do think that he's a pretty competitive pick depending on the circumstances. I didn't think so for the longest time, but I've been using him a lot lately, and I'm like, damn, this guy does some serious work, because normally mass is a big problem for the Dwarfs, but having a character, although slow, with mass, you can position him in the right place in front of your Thunders and other troops like that. And yeah, maybe if I should have probably pulled back this other group a little bit quicker, but I wanted them to just kind of stand and fight and serve as a tar pit, so then my Slayers could follow up and just jump all over them. But the Hammers did good. Quite happy with their performance. 2 of them were in great shape, and my micro is a little bit sloppy. I'm actually having really bad hand pain today, so I wasn't able to micro as quickly as usual, but nonetheless, it was still good. I like this build quite a bit. I think it could actually work against a lot of different Dark Elf builds. I feel like it'd be pretty good. The hammers with the Great Book of Grudges plus the Hammer of Carrick Draz and the Rune of Negation, Rune of Wrath, and Ruin support, they can do a ton of work. And the High King buff, of course, is only going to exacerbate that and make them very, very strong. Thunder Overwatch Fire was able to really just pound the Blades of the Blood Queen. Those guys just took a huge beating from that. But I feel like for him, maybe just mixing up the Chariots, splitting the angles of attack, and just, kind of attacking from either side, it would have kind of stressed me out, because I was able to easily layer my Slayers and just commit to defending that one flank. I think that was the only misplay, really. Aside from that, let's see. Bleak Swords are fine, just as kind of chaff units. Target Executioners obviously can do some heavy lifting for sure. Dwarves are pretty good at focusing down such targets. I think maybe even abusing more Chariot play. It really depends on your playstyle and what you're capable of in terms of micro, but yeah, I do like the bolt thrower mix in. I don't know, maybe just one would do the trick, because it can shoot out a cannon and take it out on its own. Plus, it's going to be able to kind of poke Thorgrim or whatever else you want. So yeah, it was a good build. I think that would be a build that would be tougher to handle in open field. That map certainly was quite helpful in forcing the Dark Elves into a bit of a pigeonhole. Also, I think he could have hung back and just waited for me, because he had the bolt thrower, so he had no need to advance. He could have just sat at me and shot. At which point I probably would have advanced up the middle, and we would have had a river fight. Who knows how that would have gone? We both would have been taking penalties. So, but yeah, no, it was good stuff. I like the build. As far as any suggestions I have, I'm not the best Dark Elf player, but let's go ahead and take a look and do a little bit of theory crafting. Again, very well to Adam Palmer. He said he's a regular here on the channel. Hey, look forward to playing again, man. If you want to play anytime, just hit me up. We'll have to get you playing in some of the tournaments and things like that. So again, well played, man. It was a lot of fun. So let's go ahead and jump over and look at some Dark Elf builds that I think would be quite good here. Custom battle. Yeah, and I'll be doing more live battles. I know they're pretty fun. It's cool to see kind of the deployment. That was very lazy formation. But with Dwarves, you can have them in a group one and just kind of micro them individually. But typically, you should have your guns in a bit of a different group once the battle starts, at least. So that's Dwarves. And if we're looking at Dark Elves, Malekith is a good choice, honestly. I think Malekith can do just fine. You can even go with Footlords against Dwarves if you want to, but Malekith on a Chariot is pretty disruptive. So getting him on a Chariot, as far as spells go, I do think he had the Word of Pain, and he did a really good job with that too. Soul Stealer is quite good. You can go with Blade Wind, but honestly, these 2 are probably going to be just fine. And as far as the items go, neither of these are super worth it. Destroyer is okay against Dwarves, but really, I don't think it's anything to write home about. I do like a couple Harganeth Executioners. Those guys can be focused down. Now, I've seen some Dark Elf players actually use Sisters of Slaughter to some decent effect. I'm not too sure about that, though. I haven't tested it out. Against Hammers, they would actually trade okay, because they have poison. I don't know. That's an interesting thing. But anyways, I would definitely go with a lot of chariots. You get like one bolter if you want to kind of keep that style of play. And the golden chariots are like just super good. I would honestly get 3 of those and just like put them each in a separate control group. We'll actually like deploy, and I'll show you guys like the deployment as well, because I know you guys like to see that kind of stuff sometimes. Bleak Swords are fine just as like kind of filler units, just like swamp your opponent's formation and just like get them around fighting miners, that kind of thing. Harganeth Executioners, of course, would do the heavy punching, but it's going to be more chariot focused. Now you can go with Dark Shards here. Dark Shards aren't bad against dwarves, especially Thunders, because they have the silver shields themselves, good arcs of fire. So they can work. You can get a couple of those guys if you want to. There's so many different ways to play. Or you could even mix in like just like Dark Riders, like backline harass. So now you have a ton of tools to get into the gun line and just cause disruption. But again, Dark Riders, it's like if your opponent's in an open field map, they're going to be good against like cannons and thunders and things like that, and just kind of a pursuit. As far as this, I mean, you can even go overload with like Knights of the Ebon Claw and get a bunch of Dread Knights and just try and overload the dwarven positions. That can be really nasty. Personally, I think Chariots are just like so good. And the Cav units are a little bit more susceptible to Focus Fire and Runes of Wrath and Ruin than the Chariots are, because they're smaller entities. So from here, I mean, we could just cut some Witchcraft on Malekith. Spiteful Conjuration isn't going to be bad. That will lower the armor here. No items. Okay, so we're not going to be able to cut too many corners there. So we can just get like this for the infantry line. We just get one Dark Rider for now. I think the Chariots are going to be enough of a backline pressure tool. And even Shades can do okay, but the Shades, when they do take Focus Fire back, they actually have a little bit of a problem there because they're very, very squishy against like Bugman's Rangers, anything like that. Yeah, there's so many different ways to play this matchup. I mean, getting Harpies isn't a terrible idea either. Let's see. Reaper Bolters. No, I'm just theory crafting for you guys. I mean, I guess if I was just going into ladder and playing a random player, I would probably just do something like this and then mix in, I don't know, I might even cut the Bolter, because I think the aggression is where it's really at. I mean, the Bolter will kill the cannons, but I think if you have effective chariot play and like pressure, you're going to be able to do that. So, I mean, it can work though. There is merit to that, is what I was trying to say essentially. So we get a couple Dark Shards, get like 3 groups of those guys. They're going to be able to pepper down a lot of the, you know, those type of dwarven heavy infantry, especially hammerers. And on top of that, we probably want to get a little something, a little bit of Harpy play. Harpies are okay actually against Slayers because they're infantry sized. Slayers don't get the bonus for large against them. You can even mix in Corsairs if you want to fight against Slayers, because they have high armor plus a bonus for infantry. So maybe we just put like one group of Corsairs in the back just to kind of like chill with these guys. Because if Slayers like eventually get into your back, or if you need to like pull them just to kind of fight, they're going to be able to. But it really comes down to the chariot play. That's probably the most important aspect of this. Like, you have to be pretty on point with your chariots. Although I feel like just getting like one group of Sisters of Slaughter would probably be more efficient, because again, that's spreading poison to the front line. I don't know. I'd have to experiment with that. So just a bit of a theory craft here, and yeah, we could just start the battle real quick so you guys can see kind of the deployment tactics and everything. And I'll show you like, yeah, look at the army. I was doing some testing earlier, so you can see all the foul Skaven horde over there, the Rattling Gunners and company. So as far as like grouping goes, I mean, I'm actually planning on doing a guide relatively soon on like movement and grouping tactics. That, what you saw with that Dwarf live play was a very lazy style play, but it can work with Dwarfs because you don't have to like micro a bunch of cav and separate like high priority units. But again, even still, like if you're planning on playing on like tournaments and things like that, it should be a little bit better. So the Bleak Swords are going to be on the outside. The reason being is they're just going to be like basically going around the formation, trying to get into the cookie jar a little bit, and we'll put them in the middle. These guys here and these guys right here, like so. And then Dark Shards can just be spaced in between. You don't have to worry too much about flank pressure from the Dwarves, because even if they do get into your back line, you just retract your chariots and just kind of pressure them. So here I would put Malekith in group 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then 5 for these guys. So then 3, and then Malekith will kind of count as an entity on that side. So 1, these guys should be 2 here. No, they should be 3. Yeah, so 2 and 3 should be over here. And then 4 and 5 should be over here. So then you're going to have a lot of pressure from a multitude of angles. And the Dark Riders, typically you want to start them in some sort of a hidden vanguard, so you could like hide them up in the trees or something and just like loop up and around using the shift key and just get a little bit crazy. So like this would be fine. And then you want to lock your group here. Locking the group is going to mean there's a couple ways you can move in this game. One way, I know I'm getting into like a mini guide right here, is you can use the Alt button and move. A lot of people like to do this and then use Control to spin it as you have Alt held. Now, I personally don't like this way. I mean, some people like it. It's to each their own. I personally prefer to just, I right-click and then just drag like this. It seems to just be easier for me. So, hey, a threat's coming from this way, just adjust your camera, boom. Threat's coming from here, adjust your camera, boom. Whereas if you want to do it the other way, like you have to like hold Alt and then like Control, and it's a little bit harder, in my opinion. So I think this is like the better way to do it. And then the Chariots would just go and pressure from multitude of angles. Dark Riders would go around the back with a shift movement, and then you have your good pressure on the Dwarves. So guys, thank you so much for watching the video, plus this like mini guide tutorial to counterplay. And we'll see you guys next time. Take care.